I'm Julia Davis, a film major who stumbled into the business world with no experience in 2006. I was able to fail enough to learn how to run a seven-figure business and have provided consulting services to over 200 individually owned companies. Through this podcast, I hope to provide some perspective on the growth and grit it takes to accomplish big goals and share some hard lessons I've had to learn along the way. So today we're talking about women in business with three female executives. We've got Jessica Vitalik.
I run a direct sales company that specializes in customer acquisition for Fortune 10 brands. I've ran this company since 2011, so going on my 13th to 14th year. Along the way of learning how to get customers for clients, I've also had an opportunity to help consult other small businesses that also do direct sales through our portfolio of clients. Um, so yeah, it's been a 13-year ride.
Jessica Irish.
I ran a sales and marketing office for about 12 years. And over those 12 years, I started consulting for other offices, which grew to about 20 to 30 or so when I stopped running a sales office and just became a full time consultant. And now I consult for about 40, 45 other sales and marketing businesses. I also opened up a children's play center called Planet Play. And we are in the process of opening our second. My goal is to franchise eventually. And I own a Ralph's Ices, Italian Ices, that is a franchise. So I bought a franchise location for that. Me and my husband also bought or invested in an HVAC business. And he has a lighting business. We have a lot of businesses and properties and all that good stuff. With the success that I got from our industry collectively with sales and consulting.
And Dana Iverson.
I'm a small business owner in Houston, Texas. We do direct sales and marketing. Over the last 10 years of running my business in Houston, we've promoted and opened up over 25 to 30 businesses nationwide and really have moved myself into more of a consulting role and am excited to keep opening businesses.
We should have probably had just like another Jessica on here, like a Jessica cubed plus Dana. So I wanted to talk a little bit about women, stereotypes of women in business, and you guys could discuss these and say, like, this is for sure true, but then it actually helps us, or this is totally false and does not help us. So, first stereotype I found was one that we've heard probably our whole lives. It's too emotional, right?
Oh, too, yeah.
Overly emotional, right? Overly sensitive. Can't make decisions because they're too emotional, overly sensitive. We can't put a woman in charge. We've heard that before, right? You guys have heard that. Like
Yeah.
women are too emotional to
Yeah.
to do something. So, what are your thoughts on that one?
I think that all human beings are emotional. I think guys are emotional and girls are emotional. Everybody just handles their emotions differently. And in order to become successful, you have to learn how to manage your emotions, male or female. So I guess females display their emotions more. And guys maybe hold them in and display them differently. But I think that it's definitely not accurate that you can't be a successful woman because of emotions.
And how many you mentor a lot of businesses, right, Jess? So, not only businesses that run companies, but you have other businesses. Like, what are they? Like a kids type,
Yeah, a children's entertainment center.
so
Yeah,
children's entertainment center
yeah,
plus small business. You've done both. So, you've probably worked with men and women.
yeah.
So, one's not more emotional than the other, just how they convey that emotion might be slightly different. Any other thoughts from Dana or Jess?
Yeah, I think, like Jess said, I agree. I don't think that it differentiates between men and women. I think I've met a lot of men that are more emotional in a sense. But I think if you as a professional or a leader of people know how to channel your emotions, it can be actually a strong suit of yours. Maybe you're more empathetic to people that you're building and developing. Maybe you have more passion behind what you do. So your vision that you're trying to portray to your team comes across better.
So I think, yes, both men and women are emotional because we're human beings and that's life. But if you were to get to the top of a leadership role, whether this business or any other business, you've learned how to manage those and just learned how to channel them in the right direction.
Yeah,
Just use it to your advantage.
I agree.
Jess, I feel like Jess Vitella, I heard this analogy one time where everyone's given like a different crayon box of emotions. Like some people have the 64 pack, right? Of like every type of emotion, and other people were given like the restaurant 4 pack that's like double sided crayons. I feel like that's Jessica V was given like the restaurant four for something.
Yeah, I try not to overthink things. I do think women are more emotional. Like I think I'm more emotional than my husband for sure. And I do think that we portray it in different ways. I think it can be to both of the other ladies' points. It can be like you can use it to your advantage in the sense that I believe that when you have emotion and women have emotion, they can create like passion, like Dana said. So it can really foster a really great culture of just like enthusiasm and growth because everyone just kind of feels the heartbeat of the office. I think it only becomes a negative, and what I always try to coach like against is how you solve conflicts. Because I think that if there's emotion and conflict resolution, it always turns sour. So I think if one thing that I try to do at a high level is really be aware of my own emotions when I'm having, conversations and I'm dealing with conflicts with, high level people or, in, levels of leadership that people are making big decisions and there's a lot at stake and there's a lot of pressure. That's where I try to stay away from all emotion to try to like even keel handle the situation. And I know myself, I am a little bit feisty. I am, that the passionate person. So in group settings, when it's in front of the room, I think it's a huge positive. And I think what I always try to make sure that I don't do and that other female leaders that I coach do is when it comes to conflict resolution, always stay away from emotion.
So is there something that you do to remind yourself to do that? Because I know sometimes when things are getting like really intense, it's natural to get really heated and just
Yeah.
snap. So like what do you do to like temper that to not be able to just totally fly off the handle?
I think prepare. I mean, obviously, just like anything else, when you can prepare for how conversations might go and always think of the worst possible case, like, hey, this is the negative at hand. This is how I'm going to go into this situation. I'm preparing for how this individual or this client or this team member is going to react. What's the worst thing that could possibly happen? And even though that worst thing might really get under my skin, how am I going to react when that worst thing happens? So I think just mentally preparing yourself for all different types of outcomes helps you become indifferent when the negative does exist, right? So then you're like, okay, I kind of prepared that that was going to happen. So you're kind of like, you're more like, yeah, it's kind of funny, indifferent when the negative comes up because you mentally predicted it in your head already of how that person was going to react and how it was potentially going to bother you, but you prepared for it. Preparation really solves all issues and it allows you to be more indifferent and more level headed when you're managing people.
So just not no surprises.
Yeah.
Something I do with Julia with if I'm dealing or having a conversation with someone else that's very emotional, it's like slow down and let's put some thoughts on paper. I think everyone feels better, whether it be a to-do list, they don't feel so overwhelmed. So there's something about getting thoughts like physically out of your mind onto paper. And we just make 2 columns. It's like, okay, facts and feelings. If someone's like, man, I don't feel like I'm growing, or I don't feel like I'm doing well, or I don't feel like I'm adding value, or I feel this way, right? We let them write their feelings down. And then like as a partner, as a coach or a mentor, you take every single thing they're feeling and then actually write out the fact. It's like, okay, if you don't feel like you're growing, well, let's think. You've gotten 2 promotions, your paychecks have increased by X amount, you are now, not in a entry level position. Now you're teaching and training other people. So actually that feeling is not real. It's just a feeling, right? So it's something about writing it on paper though, because you can talk someone through it, but when they see it tangibly and it kind of removes itself from their head onto paper, it's a really good exercise and it kind of makes people just naturally feel better.
I also think that as Jess was saying that, she does think, females are more emotional. I think that they're just more vocal with emotions, and guys, like more of them with their emotions, it makes them shut down, where girls are more vocal about it. And so, either way, like there needs to be a balance, and like emotional maturity is what, the balance is in making somebody, successful. But I think that's why there's a stereotype.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever felt like when you're having a conversation that does I'm sure, like, early in the career, right? Like, in your career early on, you probably weren't as good at this as you are now, right? Did you ever feel like there was a time where you let your emotions control the environment and then it maybe undermined your authority? Right? Where you're like, "This actually was, like, a mistake. I probably should have dialed it back, or I shouldn't have had this type of conversation." And then, like, what advice would you give to maybe women in business or leadership roles that are, like, in the early stages and maybe don't have the experience that you 3 have of identifying that so clearly?
I think first things first, you have to step away. Like I've had times in my past and I learned this through not doing it. Of course, like your question. But now if I can tell and I have those, I guess, triggers that are like, Dana, you're feeling emotional, I will really actually like hang up on someone and say, oh my gosh, hold on one second. I have to call you back. Hang up, go to my mentor coach or put my thoughts on paper or just go drink some water or something and just kind of calm down emotionally. So then I can like, call them back so it won't be emotional. But I had to learn that because before I would just be in the moment and talk about it right then and there. But I think to coach people that are starting off in terms of leadership or owning a company, it's don't be afraid to like stop, pause, deal with those emotions, and then come back to the situation to, offer a solution.
I agree. I just say I'm too angry to have this conversation right now. I need to wait. But I made a ton of mistakes. I was very overly emotional. I think I still am. I just know how to manage it better. But I mean, I quit my first week crying, right? And then like changed my mind. And then, even in management, for sure, looking back at like just arguments or just being upset about something, mad about something, overly. Um, I think what helped besides just growing, and growing up and maturing over time was solving things faster. Because a lot of times when you're really mad or really sad or really anything about something, it's because it's been growing. And that's what like heightens the emotions where you make decisions on it. So I think solving things faster is something I learned how to do, not let things get so bad where I have to deal with them at the extreme. And like Dana said, just, if I am really upset, just can't talk about it right now. Like, let me like, get my thoughts together and get my emotions balanced before we have this conversation, or it's not going to go well.
I think Julia and everyone, is such a hard question because it comes through experience. So if the advice is okay, young people in leadership as they're learning to grow within their role, I think what has helped me not react to a lot of negatives is understand what the victory is for the purpose, whether it's the company or the plan, like what's going to move the needle of whatever objective we're trying to work on. And when things come up on the day to day, if you have like a goal at the end of it, sometimes it's really easy to understand what matters and what doesn't. And a lot of the times people get so caught up in the day to day negatives um, of, just life that's what they're constantly reacting to things. And if there's a vision that's bigger than the day, bigger than the week, and you're thinking, hey, what's going to move the needle for me in this career? Then you won't react so much to the small stuff because you'll start to realize that's really not a difference maker. Like it doesn't really matter. So it's not like something I should even care about because it doesn't align with the bigger goal. So I think for the young people and people that are trying to, elevate themselves is understand their strategy. and try to think through the strategy. And then when negatives come up or challenges, which they absolutely will, do those matter enough that are they going to affect the strategy or the end goal? Because there's a lot of things that just don't really matter and you shouldn't even care about them. So it allows you to operate with more indifference and then stay focused on the things that actually change and make the difference that move the needle. So I think if I would have done that more, I didn't do. If I would have done that a little bit more, I wouldn't have reacted to some of the small stuff that doesn't waste mental energy on things that don't even really ever matter anyways. So the strategy, what's the victory of the group? How do we meet this goal? What's the vision? And then work backwards. And when the negatives come up day to day, you can kind of decipher in your mind or on paper, like Dana spoke to, does this matter or does it not? Um, and it allows you to kind of have more of a clear focus.
Yeah, those are all really good, like, applicable things that people can do, like, tangible. I think that's really good.